Dear ladies and gentlemen, special military report, Kyrylo Budanov, Ukraine's commander in the shadows. The war of shadows and information. The Russia-Ukraine conflict, which erupted in February 2022, has become the largest war in Europe since World War II. Millions have been displaced, hundreds of thousands of soldiers have been killed or wounded, and both nations are mired in an unprecedented war of attrition. On the battlefield, the world sees tanks, artillery, and drones. But in the shadows, another front silently shapes the course of events, the war of intelligence. Here, one figure has emerged as the brain behind secret operations, the architect of counteroffensives, and a symbol of Ukraine's will to resist. That man is Kyrylo Oleksiiovych Budanov, Major General and Director of Ukraine's Defense Intelligence Agency, KYR. Born in 1986, Budanov became, in his 30s, one of the youngest intelligence chiefs in modern history, carrying the mission of defending his nation against one of the world's most powerful militaries. From warning about the invasion, coordinating prisoner exchanges, monitoring Russia's weapons supply, to orchestrating strikes deep inside enemy territory, Budanov's imprint is found in nearly every turning point of the war. This report delves into his portrait, his role, and the special missions entrusted to him, to explain why Budanov is seen as Ukraine's commander in the shadows. 1. Portrait of a young intelligence chief. Kyrylo Budanov was born on January 4, 1986, in Kyiv, into a military family. Following in his family's footsteps, he joined Ukraine's armed forces and quickly distinguished himself in special operations units. Before becoming director of KYR, Budanov served as deputy head of an important intelligence unit and took part in numerous special missions in eastern Donbass from 2014, the first phase of Ukraine's direct confrontation with pro-Russian separatists and mercenaries. On August 5, 2020, President Volodymyr Zelensky appointed Budanov as director of the Defense Intelligence Agency. At 34, he was far younger than most of his predecessors. The choice initially surprised many, but it soon proved to be a wise decision, as Budanov demonstrated sharp analytical skills, accurate forecasting, and effective leadership during the most critical moments. He is often described as quiet, reserved, but highly decisive. Typically seen in plain military uniform with a stern expression, Budanov avoids lengthy speeches, instead favoring short, direct statements and strategic warnings. Forecasting the war. KYR's first mission. Even before 2022, Budanov and KYR repeatedly warned of the looming threat of a full-scale Russian invasion. In November 2021, he publicly declared that Russian forces were massing at the border and could launch an offensive in early 2022. When the war broke out, his warning came true. Budanov later admitted he had feared, if the invasion didn't happen, Ukraine would remain in a permanent state of threat with no chance to assert itself. His accurate forecasts allowed Ukraine to prepare, fortifying defenses, securing logistics, and rallying Western support. For Western allies, Budanov became a strategic source. His analyses of Russia's capabilities and weaknesses were frequently compared with US and NATO intelligence. More than once, his predictions about shifts in Russia's tactics, such as concentrating artillery in Donbass or increasing use of Shahed drones, matched the reality on the ground. 3. Prisoner exchanges and protecting the Azov fighters. One of Budanov's most notable achievements is his role in negotiating and organizing prisoner exchanges. In March 2022, he was appointed head of the coordinating headquarters for the treatment of prisoners of war. With thousands of Ukrainian soldiers captured, especially after the Battle of Mariupol, this was both a humanitarian and highly complex mission. On September 21, 2022, Budanov played a direct role in the largest prisoner exchange of the war. 215 Ukrainians were freed, including more than 100 fighters and commanders of the Azov regiment. In return, Ukraine released 55 Russian soldiers and pro-Moscow politician Viktor Medvedchuk. This event was not only a diplomatic victory, but also boosted the morale of Ukraine's armed forces. Budanov was hailed as the protector of imprisoned fighters and proved the decisive role of intelligence even in humanitarian negotiations amid brutal warfare. 4. Tracking Russia's weapons supply and support networks. Another vital responsibility for Budanov was monitoring the flow of weapons to Russia. He publicly asserted that North Korea supplied up to 40% of the ammunition Russia used on the battlefield, including long-range artillery and ballistic missiles. His figures, around 120 self-propelled 170mm guns and 120 multiple-launch rocket systems of 240 millimeters, shocked international audiences. These revelations became the basis for Ukraine's calls to the United Nations and Western allies to strengthen sanctions on Pyongyang. They also highlighted the intensity of the attritional war. Russia was forced to rely on suppliers outside Europe. Budanov also repeatedly warned of Iran's provision of Shahed 136 suicide drones to Russia. These alerts helped Ukraine bolster its air defense and pushed Western countries to supply Patriot, NASAMS, and Iris-T systems. 5. The Shadow War. Strikes inside Russia. If Donbass is where artillery roars, the intelligence battlefield is marked by sudden explosions deep inside Russia. Budanov never directly claims responsibility, but many attacks on the Crimean Bridge, fuel depots, and defense plants in Belgorod and Bryansk are attributed to her. In February 2023, he declared, "The attacks will continue deep inside Russia." His warning soon became reality as unidentified drones struck Russian air bases hundreds of kilometers from the border. The targets chosen were no coincidence: defense industry sites producing Iskander missile components or strategic fuel reserves. This strategy aimed to hit Russia's strategic logistics, making it harder for Moscow to sustain combat operations. Analysts call this asymmetric warfare, where a smaller nation uses intelligence and special operations to undermine a military superpower. 6. The information war. Beyond the battlefield, Budanov is also a strategic voice. He frequently gives interviews to international media, offering sharp assessments of the war. He predicted that Russia's economy would collapse by 2025 and its weapons stockpile would run out by 2026. Though controversial, these claims bolstered confidence that Ukraine could endure the war. In the media, Budanov is portrayed as the antithesis of Russia's defense minister Sergei Shoigu, young, calm, and confident. He understands that in modern conflict, information itself is a weapon, and the image of an intelligence leader can profoundly affect morale both at home and abroad. 7. Assassination plots and the struggle for survival. As Russia's enemy number one, Budanov has been targeted for assassination multiple times. According to Ukraine's security service, SBU, Russia once planned to kill him using missiles and drones in a covert operation. The plot was foiled, but it showed the risks he constantly faces. Not only Budanov, but also President Zelensky has been the target of numerous assassination attempts. Budanov candidly admitted, "Russia has repeatedly tried to eliminate the president, but all attempts have failed thanks to intelligence and vigilance." This underscores Huar's role not just at the front lines, but also in protecting Ukraine's leadership, ensuring its government can function and resist. 8. Strategic vision and future outlook. Budanov looks beyond the present and envisions the future. He proposed establishing a 60-mile demilitarized zone inside Russian territory once the war ends, to prevent renewed aggression. This bold idea shows strategic thinking that extends beyond the current conflict. He also warned that the war could drag on, depending heavily on US and Western support. According to Budanov, the United States is the key, especially in air defense. If this support weakens, Ukraine will be in danger. Conclusion. The commander in the shadows. For more than 3 years of war, Kyrylo Budanov's image has been tied to pivotal events. His warnings before February 24, 2022, the Azov prisoner exchange, and mysterious blasts in Crimea. He embodies the blend of intelligence, strategy, and national resilience. If war is a giant chessboard, Budanov controls the invisible pieces. intelligence, special operations, covert diplomacy. These moves may not bring immediate victories, but they determine Ukraine's ability to endure, survive, and hope for freedom. In history, intelligence chiefs rarely become public figures, yet Budanov is an exception. He is not only a man in the shadows, but also the face of hope for millions of Ukrainians striving toward a future without war. Thank you for listening. If you found this video meaningful, please leave a like, share it with others, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel so we can continue uncovering the deeply human stories hidden within the smoke and fire of war.